Hello, Cross Beyonders, and welcome to another episode of Anthony's Asylum. I am your host, Anthony, and right now I am sitting on a mountain of Star Wars loot from my Force Friday shopping spree, and I had to pull myself away from that to record this podcast, so bear with me, guys. This episode I want to talk about, of course, you guys know I'm a big Apple nerd, right? So I want to talk about Apple's event and all the goodies that came out of that. And I also want to talk about Christopher Nolan's films, kind of ranking them from worst to best, in my opinion. And finally, I wanted to talk about Super Mario Maker for all you gamers out there. It's years in the making, and something I think we all want. I don't care what kind of nerd you are or what kind of un-nerd you are or whatever, but yeah. So we'll be talking about some really cool stuff today, guys. So let's start with Apple's event, right? They always have an event every September, and I eagerly anticipate what they are going to reveal or talk about or whatever, okay? And like I said, full disclosure, I am a Apple nerd. I've always been, for as long as I can remember, a fan of Apple's products, even with the old beige Macintosh systems back in the day. And when I went to school, all that stuff, typing tutor and all that, I was just, Oregon Trail, all that stuff. I mean, I don't know, there was something special about the Apple that was always staring back at me. The little rainbow Apple back then. Now it's not rainbow anymore, unfortunately, but I still love it. So anyway, yeah, so big stuff, exciting stuff, like really amazing, honestly. Like I honestly was thinking that they would just have an iteration of the iPhone 6, which, most people wouldn't have a problem with, because, anybody who loves Apple, they're just going to go buy the new product anyway. But it's amazing what they've really done now with the iPhone 6. Obviously, their flagship product, it brings in about 2/3 of their revenue, which I think last year stood at $107 billion. So yeah, crazy, hefty, pretty hefty. And of course, now we have the iPhone 6s and the iPhone 6s Plus, and the really new key thing that really separates this from the last year's iterations of the iPhone 6 is the rose gold coloring. I mean, come on. Fantastic, right? I mean, that's a reason. That's the main reason, the only reason to get an iPhone 6s now, okay? Come on. I'm kidding, guys. Sorry. The rose gold is fantastic, though. It looks really good. And for some reason, I've never been a fan of rose gold, but the rose gold on that phone looks mighty sweet. Anyway, though, no, the real thing that separates it apart from last year is the 3D Touch. A really cool new technology that is really sort of where the tech should be going. I mean, it's a logical next step, and I think it's really cool that, what they've done they've applied sort of the Apple Watch has the taptic engine, which allows the haptic little vibrations, and then it also has this sort of flexible glass, these sort of pressure sensitive glass and sensors that allow you to apply different amounts of pressure to the display to perform different actions. And so they have basically utilized that technology, made it even better, and put it in the new iPhone, which I think is just whoa. Like the things that can be done now, especially with the new iOS 9 software that's releasing this fall, is just going to be amazing. And it's too bad that it's only on the iPhone 6s. I mean, at this point, so if you want it, you got to upgrade to that, which for me, I am not doing that anytime soon. So, but I would love to, yeah, definitely. But yeah, the 3D Touch, the new 12 megapixel camera, which is huge. I didn't think Apple would be upgrading the megapixels of their camera. I know they've been kind of firmly stuck on 8 megapixels for a while, and they've been sort of upgrading the lenses and the lighting sensors, all kinds of stuff. They've just been making the camera itself better, which is good, increasing the image sensors, that kind of thing, which made sense. I mean, a lot of other smartphone makers will just increase the megapixels thinking, oh yeah, more megapixels is going to make better pictures, and that's not true. Take it from me, I'm a filmmaker and a avid photographer and have used film cameras as well as digital cameras. And honestly, once you get past 16 megapixels of anything, it really just, there's no discernible difference in terms of what you're getting out of the image. It really depends on the sensor. It really depends on a lot of things that go into the technology to help the megapixel count. You know what I mean? It's not just megapixels that's going to make a better picture. So Apple, I think, has done the right thing in sticking with 8 megapixels as long as they had. So I was kind of surprised to see that they went up to the 12 megapixels. But, not like super surprised. It was like, oh, okay, cool. It again, the next logical step for them. So, but like, forget 1080p now, right? Now the huge thing is 4K. The fact that it's shooting 4K video, which I'm still kind of confused by and kind of like, because the display, if I'm not mistaken, at least for the 6S Plus, is a 1080p display, HD display, right? So if you're shooting 4K, how can you view the footage that you already shot? I don't know. It doesn't make much sense. But I guess you could, then upload it to whatever video editing software you use to view it. But even then, you'd need a 4K display to actually view it properly then as well. And I myself do not have a 4K display. But it would definitely be interesting to just shoot 4K video on a phone. That's unheard of. You could, yeah. Anyway, so the implications of that are going to be huge. We're going to see definitely what people are going to come up with, video-wise, movie-wise, quite frankly. And you can shoot a full-on feature film with a few iPhone 6S's or 6S Pluses at this point with shooting 4K video, for crying out loud. It's. So yeah, that huge for people like me, for videographers, filmmakers. That's just, the camera alone is just why I love this phone so much too. Beyond all the cool stuff, like I said, the 3D touch, all this new stuff that they're doing. So, but anyway, so we have that, which, like I said, is huge. I think it just went beyond what I thought they would do, which I thought was just going to be, they're just going to slap an S on it, give it a better chip, a little bit better graphics or whatever, and call it a day, and people would buy it. That's just the way it is. But I'm glad they really did something new with the tech and just kind of are continuing to progress and just go in the next logical step, and I like saying logical with Apple because they are. You see these other tech companies trying to do all these crazy things, and it's not logical. Quite frankly, it's not. Let's add like an extra weird curved screen on the side of your phone just so you can see notifications when your phone is face down that don't even work right. So yeah. So anyway, like I said, next logical step, not next big thing or whatever you want to call it. And sorry for all you Samsung lovers out there. So we have that, and then we have, which to me is the most exciting thing, the iPad Pro. How can you not get excited about this? 12.9-inch display, much improved multi-touch display. Now it doesn't have or as far as I know, it doesn't have the taptic engine, and it doesn't have the 3D touch. That is exclusive to the new iPhone 6S and the 6S Plus, as well as the watchOS. But you know what? I don't care. I don't mind at all, because what it can do now and what it does, what it will do, and what it's going to mean for everybody who jumped the iPad boat hoping that, the Surface Pro and all this other stuff is going to be so much better. I'm you know what? I have a feeling, a distinct feeling that they're going to be jumping those boats pretty soon and coming back to Apple with the iPad Pro. Not only is it bigger, so bigger display, more to work with. It's also, like I said, features a newly designed multi-touch display that it just allows for greater finesse, greater control, greater touch capabilities, allowing for new technology, which, a few of the accessories now coming with the iPad Pro are the Apple Pencil, which in my mind has totally made the Evernote Jot Note, or whatever it's called, obsolete, which is something I actually wanted for the longest time, but the Apple Pencil has rendered that device obsolete. So, and then of course the new smart keyboard that they have, which again renders so many of those other third-party keyboard cases just obsolete. So again, leave it to Apple, but to really make something new, to really make something fresh, and to really make something of the tech that is available now, and then take it a step further in its next logical step, like I said. And so just works fantastically well. And the fact that now it's like a fully fledged, truly multimedia device, in the sense that you have the 4 speakers now on each corner of the device, so you can enjoy movies and games at a much higher level now with the surround sound. And with the Apple Pencil and with the new keyboard, if you're an avid writer, I mean, to me, that renders laptops and maybe even desktop computers obsolete, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, with the new chip, the new 64-bit architecture that they're using, it's just, yeah, I mean, why carry around a laptop now? Why even have a desktop computer if you can have, a couple of iPad Pros, which are still cheaper than either a desktop or a laptop like a MacBook, or, and you get all of that with the iPad Pro. I mean, it's just, to me, yeah, it makes perfect sense now. Like, what they've done, where they've gone with that iPad. It's almost like the previous generations of iPad were starter sets, were like, the preliminaries to the main event. You know what I mean? Like, and the iPad Pro is the main event now, and that's pretty big. So, and then of course the next big thing, obviously the software is going to be improved. They always come up with software improvements. So iOS 9 is coming out. We have OS 10 El Capitan, which I'm very excited about. And then, of course, the Watch OS 2, which is going to be adding a lot more stuff. And the main thing with the Watch OS 2, which I think is going to be huge for Apple Watch users, is the fact that most of the apps will now be native apps, which is good, because I know a lot of people were complaining about there was a lot of lag because it had to communicate with your phone. And so they're making the watch more independent from your iPhone, which is great. And like I said, a step in the right direction for that device. And then on top of that, Apple TV, which is finally getting a revision or a revamp, if you will, after, what was it? What was the last update, I guess, was in 2012. So we're talking, 3 years? And you knew something was coming, because earlier this year they actually dropped the price considerably of the Apple TV. It was like, oh wow, cool, something's gonna happen then. And of course something has happened, and so now Apple TV, which Apple is sort of touting as their new sort of multimedia center, they're really trying to push not only TV watching, but gaming, and to me that's very interesting as a gamer, like, the fact that they're trying to get into gaming now. And if it can do all those things, to me, like, I don't know, Apple TV may be a real contender, not only with set-top boxes, but with into gaming consoles and systems and things like that, because they already have this huge library. And I'm assuming they're just going to be using the iOS games or the macOS games that are now available on Apple TV. Whether or not third parties are going to be developing games on a console level. Like if you can play, a PS4 or an Xbox One game or something like that on Apple TV, I would be very surprised. But to me, that seems like something that is feasible in the near future and something that, they may be trying to leverage. You know what I mean? I know Apple is very keen on having good partnerships, and they're very smart about creating those partnerships and making them last. And who knows? Just because we haven't heard it yet, I wouldn't be surprised to hear some kind of partnership between Apple and Sony or Apple and Microsoft, something to that effect that will, I don't know, like I said, make that kind of a reality. But who knows? Apple or Microsoft and Sony may just want to keep out of it, just because they want to keep the console market to themselves. And because we've seen that, a lot of failure so far in terms of other third parties trying to get into it. It's just very hard right now. Like the what was that one system? What was it called? I forgot how you pronounced it. I think it was like Oya or something like that, which got a really big Kickstarter following and backing and that kind of thing, but it ultimately failed, unfortunately. Or even I think Amazon had some kind of thing that they were trying to do. I don't know. So a lot of people or companies are trying to bank on console gaming and that kind of thing. And who knows? Maybe Apple will succeed, maybe not. But they are definitely making a strong case for it now. And that is what is kind of important. I think now all of a sudden, oh, look, we can, they are doing this. And whether it works or not, well, we'll have to see come this fall. So, but anyway, huge stuff. I just wanted to talk about that because it's just, it's stuff I always look forward to every year. And unlike any other tech company that I know, Apple always gets my attention and always keeps my attention. And hey, that's the way it is. But anyway, I want to move on a little bit and talk about some Christopher Nolan stuff. I know there's a lot of Christopher Nolan fans out there. And he actually just announced that his next film is coming out in 2017, which is like, what? Come on, dude. Get off your ass and make a movie. No, sorry. No, but, no, actually, I love his films, and I've been a fan actually since, Memento back in 2001. So I know a bit about Christopher Nolan, but I just wanted to kind of rank his films in terms of my preference and also his ability to adapt a film versus his ability to originally create a film. In other words, an original creation, an original idea that he wrote, directed, brought up from scratch to make the movie, or something that was adapted from a book or from a comic book or something else, some kind of source material that he then made into his movie, And obviously the ones that I have a personal belief that I think his original stuff is better than his adapted material. And I know there'll be a lot of naysayers because I know there's a lot of people who love his adapted material, of which his most famous material, I would say, his most famous films are obviously adapted from a very, very popular comic book, and that, of course, is Batman. And, of course, Batman Begins, and then we have The Dark Knight, and then The Dark Knight Rises, which are typically, in circles that I talk to and listen to and on forums and stuff, it seems like everyone is of the opinion that those are his best films, and I have to disagree. I think they are his weakest films. And before I get any flack or whatever, just hear me out. I think because they are from another source material, it was a little, to me, harder to, I think it's a little harder for him to really create the movie that he wanted to. And I think, or maybe he didn't, I mean, who knows, but based on Nolan's earlier works, such as Following, which was really his first feature film, which was, he says it's a no-budget film, so basically it was made with his friends on the weekends whenever they could. I think they made it over the course of a year. Fantastic film, by the way, black and white. Go see it if you haven't. And then, of course, he did Memento after that in 2001, which was a bigger budget film. He had a little bit more help, a better cast. Joey Pantoliano was in that. Guy Pearce, Carrie-Anne Moss. So really good. Awesome story, too. Again, original, but based on a story that his brother wrote. So I guess you could argue, okay, maybe not completely original, but he is credited as writer and director of that film. And then after that, he did an adaptation of I believe it was a Swedish film called Insomnia. And again, great. Dealt with some good themes. It was sort of his foray into larger, more studio-backed pictures. So you could argue it was a little bit more conventional, a little bit more linear than what we're used to with Christopher Nolan. But then it wasn't until 2005's Batman Begins that I think we really saw, in my opinion, Christopher Nolan cashing into the studios. And, it's not a bad thing. I mean, it got him to where he is now. I mean, he's able to do a lot more than what he was used to. I mean, he's got bigger budgets now. He's got, any actor he wants to work with, he will work with. And now, of course, he's got the clout. I mean, he's got the fame. He's got all that, the popularity that actors want to work with him, But I think to me that was really the point where, because when I heard he was doing a Batman movie, I was really excited. I was really excited because I watched Nolan's earlier films and was excited by his style and what he would do with it and, really make something fresh and new and something like we haven't seen before. And I think that was my mistake because I just went into that movie so pumped up and so, my expectations were just so high that they could never be met, and so I was disappointed by that movie. I honestly was. I was just like, wow, this is a real letdown. This is just sort of another conventional comic book movie, and that's how I saw it. And I know a lot of people would say, oh, it's better than a lot of other movies, and fine, but like I said, I had pumped myself up so much that when I did see it, it was just a real letdown. And one of the disappointments of that year for me, quite honestly. And I think that was 2005, yeah. And was not happy. And like I said, that's kind of what drives my belief that he's just kind of cashed out at that point. And like I said, it got him to where he is now. Without, I think, the Batman franchise, he would not be as big or as, he may still be very, making really good movies and things like that, but he wouldn't be the big box office blockbuster filmmaker that he is now. And then after that, he did The Prestige in 2006, which is one of my personal favorites. It is an adaptation. It is based on a book called, I believe it's called The Prestige. It may be called something else. But fantastic movie, though, and expertly just everything, just expertly written, adapted, and directed, and really good actors in the roles that they were in. Just suspenseful, mysterious. It really added that element of magic that was missing from some movies, and it really made that whole genre really just pop out and really relevant. I mean, I haven't thought of I can't even think of a good magician movie besides that one. But yeah, The Prestige was just fantastic. I remember watching it. It was late at night. I was going to school at that time, and it kept me up. It was interesting enough to keep me up and continue watching it, and just, David Bowie in that movie, by the way, is fantastic. He plays Nikola Tesla in a very interesting role. But anyway, and then so in 2008 he did The Dark Knight, which blew a lot of people away, and some would consider his best film. Now, it is his best Batman film, but it's not his best film. I'm sorry, guys. That goes to another movie that he made. No, but The Dark Knight is fantastic. It really is. It's great. And like I said, his best Batman film, and probably one of the best Batman films ever made. But there's that, I don't know, there's that lingering thing that I get all the time, is that he was trying to please the studios with certain things and try and be too, grounded and too, there's, Batman has an element of fantasy, and there should be that fantasy there, and an element of humor that should be there as well. And of course, an element of darkness, that I think we're kind of missing, or at least muddled, in my opinion. And then we have 2010 Inception, which is, pretty good. Probably my favorite. But again, an original work by Nolan. Inception is just, it's beyond words at this point. There has been so much speculation, so much talk about that movie that it's insane. Like, 5 years after its release, that is still going on to this day. Especially, did the top fall? Did it not fall? What is he in a dream? Is he not? I mean, there's so much you can talk about with that movie. And on repeat viewings, there's always something new too. It's fascinating what you can get out of that movie. And then 2012 was The Dark Knight Rises, again adapted, but very, very different. Not a very good, in my opinion, conclusion to the series. It was a conclusion, and it worked for what Nolan was doing. But in terms of Batman and the context of his character, it fell flat for me. And the best part of that was probably Catwoman. The fact that the other guy, what's his face, ended up being Robin. I mean, was kind of interesting, but again, not really necessary. So just a lot of kind of things that were, kind of filler, not really the best kind of tight conclusion that I was hoping for. But again, a worthy entry. And then, of course, his most recent film, Interstellar, which came out last year, 2014, which I actually liked more than others. I know there was a lot of flack about that film being too confusing, too long, not as interesting as his earlier works. Some issues with sound, with some dialogue that was drowned out by sound. Things like that. But I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. And I think maybe probably because I went into it with lower expectations. And it's a wonder what that does, actually. If you go into a movie with low expectations, wow, you will be really surprised. But anyway, I went into it with a little bit lower expectations and came out really, like I said, genuinely entertained, and it was thought provoking, and it was very visually interesting, and it did a lot of things right. I think for all the things it did wrong, it did a lot of things right as well. So there you have it. Those are Nolan's films, and I think you can tell based on how I described those films which ones I think are his best ones. But I want to go with, I'll start with his worst to his best, in my opinion, of course. Okay, number one, all right? So his worst film, Batman Begins. Easy, hands down. Yep, that's no contest right now. Batman Begins is his worst film. Like I said, for the reasons of I think he just sold out at that point. And, for good reason. Like I said, he is in a position now where he can do whatever he wants, which is great. But, I think he sacrificed his vision of Batman for what the studio wanted. And, like I said, it worked. It was good. It was a letdown for me. Made a lot of money. Was just another comic book movie to me, though. It wasn't really anything special. And I think with Nolan behind the camera, it should have been really special and could have been really special. And then we go to The Dark Knight Rises. Again, for much of the same reasons, it just fell flat for me. Just didn't really do much of anything. So that's number 2. Number 3, I would say Interstellar. Not one of his best films, but not as bad as people say. Okay, it had its moments. It had some really good stuff. And I think some really good talking points and some really good thought-provoking moments, that it's worth watching for those reasons. Number 4. Okay, this is where it gets hard. Number 4 is Following. Great film. Fantastic film. Just the way it's told. I mean, the way it was shot, you can tell. I mean, it adds to it, though. It makes it so great, but you can tell they shot it over the course of a year, and it took some time because the character keeps changing, and all these people, they changing haircuts and looks and things like that, but it makes sense for the way the story is told. Number 5. Let's see, where are we? Number 5. Okay. The Dark Knight. Okay. And I know you guys are probably crying right now. Why isn't it number 1? Well, you know what? I already said why it's not number 1. It is his best Batman film. Okay? It's not his best film. And I think, like I said, that comes down to adaptations versus original works. And his original works are just better than his adapted works, quite frankly, because he is not limited by the source material. And I think, like I said, The Dark Knight, does a very good job of being what Nolan envisioned. I think even more than what Batman Begins was, but it's still it's still reined in by those studio limitations, by the source material limitations that, unfortunately, I think are a detriment to what Nolan's his abilities are. And you can disagree with me or agree with me, I don't care, but whatever. Leave something in the comments then, and I will try to get back to you. All right. And number 6, The Prestige. Fantastic film. Like I said, his best adapted work so far. If he decides to adapt another novel or something for his next movie coming out in 2017, yes, amazing. I will be there. And where are we? 7. Inception. Great film. Awesome. Some actors in that movie deserved some accolades that they did not get, which is upsetting. Nolan deserved some accolades for that movie that he did not get, and that's criminal. That's just. And then, of course, number 8 is Memento. I think Memento is and will probably remain his best film for a long time, unless he comes up with something that is as good as it, or surpasses it. And Inception was close, and Inception, I know, is a lot of people's favorite, and it's just so complex. I mean, but Memento is just that whole concept of a guy who can't make new memories, and then it's told backwards. I mean, it's unheard of. And then just the intricacies of, they actually cut the film normally so that Nolan could watch it, and so that everything made sense within the context of the film, so that it wasn't like you were missing anything, and there was, everything led to its next logical conclusion and that kind of thing. And so it's amazing to me. And then, and they put it backwards again to just, like I said, just throw you for a loop. I remember the first time I saw that movie, I was just completely what the hell? I don't know what's going on, but I love this. And of course, on repeat viewings, there's always new things that you find, new visuals, new just talking points, and it's gonna live on forever and as one of the best movies, and definitely, like I said, Christopher Nolan's best movie. So yeah, and let's move on here. I'm running out of time here, but I wanted to kind of talk about Super Mario Maker. Like I said, a game that has been years in the making, just literally. I think ever since we played if you're one of those kids that has played Super Mario Brothers, the first one on regular Nintendo back in the day, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I remember just wanting to go in there and like build those worlds, and be a part of that, and just like, oh man, like, and now we finally have it, and it's just like fantastic. So that game actually releases for the Wii U September 11th, and as of this recording, that is 2 days away. But as of the release of this episode, it is today. So yeah, go get your copies, guys. If you have a Wii U, that is. I wish they would make it open source or something, because, oh god, I mean, you know how many people want to do this right now? Like, the internet is going to be flooded come Friday with YouTube videos, with all kinds, with levels, with all kinds of Mario craziness, and it's just going to be, oh man, it's going to be amazing. And it makes me kind of want to get a Wii U now just for that. Like, just get Super Mario Maker, because now we can finally make our own Mario levels. And some of the stuff I've seen is just fantastic so far. Like, Game Informer has, Kyle Hilliard has done some stuff which is pretty funny. You can catch on YouTube right now, and just a lot of pre-release kind of stuff that people are already working on releasing. And it's just, oh man, just imagine Little Big Planet and Mod Nation Racers and all that kind of stuff, and just jack it up a notch, because this is Mario we're talking about. This is just, it's, and you can use all the different skins. I mean, it's insane. Like, it's not just limited to Super Mario Brothers. You can do Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario 3, which were all for the regular Nintendo. You can do Super Mario World, which was for the Super Nintendo, all the way up to the new Super Mario Brothers that was released a few years ago. So it's all 2D. I mean, you can't do any, so far there's not any 3D stuff, so you can't do Mario 64 graphics or whatever. Which I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Nintendo has any future plans for stuff like that. I mean, that would be insane, but so far it's all 2D. It's all the 2D Mario games and skins that you can use, and just all the enemies, and I mean, it's just, and it's so intuitive from what I've seen so far. It's just like, you can create a level in a matter of minutes and have it be playable, and pretty amazing. And obviously it's probably not going to be up to the level of Nintendo standards, but it's just cool to see that people are now able to create within that universe in a way that I think we all have wanted to since we were little kids. So yeah, September 11th is the release for Super Mario Maker. And, God, like I said, it makes me want to get a Wii U. And I'm like, oh, I don't have a Wii U, but you know what? Maybe it's time to get one, guys. Anyway, thank you for listening. Anthony's Asylum releases every Friday, for the most part, on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, and my Patreon page, if you guys would be so kind to visit that and donate to my cause. My cause being, of course, making movies and short films and documentaries and all that kind of stuff that I love to do as a filmmaker that I can't really do because it costs money and that kind of thing. But yeah, with your help, I could. But anyway, my name is Anthony, and I have enjoyed talking to you guys this week. Please join me again next week for another episode of Anthony's Asylum.